All right, good afternoon. We would like to call to order the meeting of the Oklahoma Space Industry Development Authority. Thank you all for being here. First, I would like to just note that this meeting is being conducted consistent with the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act. And all information has been posted. The agenda was posted as required by that act as well. So, first of all, we'd love to meet our visitors here. If you wouldn't mind just telling us who you are. Oh, great. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Okay, great. Glad to have you here. How about
Out of Tulsa, supporting the Tulsa Innovation Lab.
Okay.
Independent consultant.
Okay, great. Nice to see you. And
Summer Jones.
hi, Summer. Glad to have you here. All right, moving on. Let's go to approval of the minutes. Ms. Deidre?
All right. Hopefully you guys have all had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops. Thank you for keeping me straight there. Okay, we need to do roll call and note of a quorum. Yes, please.
All right, Ms. Gary,
Here.
General Lyman,
Here.
Mr. Schultz,
Here.
Chairwoman Rolls,
Here?
Mr. Siegfried, and Mr. Henry.
Present.
I had my glasses on, so I couldn't read the agenda. Okay, now we're good. Back to the
Okay.
minutes.
Does anybody have any questions or clarifications for the minutes as they are presented in the binder today? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion for approval.
Do we
Second.
have to- Oh, we need a motion.
Did you make the motion? Or you entertaining
She's-
the motion?
I'm entertaining the
She
motion
did.
because I have to present the minutes to you.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, and can you take the vote, please?
Ms. Gary,
Aye.
General Lyman,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Aye.
Chairwoman Rolls,
Aye.
and Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and now we will go to item 5, the
Okay.
treasurer's report.
For the treasurer's report, I'd like to ask JW if he would just give a quick overview of the financials from last month.
Absolutely. Bear with me here just one moment. All right. I apologize. I'm looking for my February here. Would you mind opening your
And
book
for
to
the,
February?
for the board, it is tab 2 of the binder, has all of the financials from the last 2 months, since last board meeting.
Go to these fun pages. There we go. You want the book? Yeah, please. Okay, sorry about that, guys.
All right.
So for the revolving account, our 200 account, since the last meeting, that's seen an increase of from 548,409 to 562,189. For the airport fund, cumulatively, we are down about $70,000, and that is because we haven't received a JUA payment in a couple of months.
That happens.
That happens.
They'll fall behind and they'll catch up.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the 215, the air park account, we are down $3,000, which there's lots of miscellaneous expenses that come out of that account. as far as maintenance goes. Our prep funds have remained the same. We haven't spent anything out of there. There's lots of future expenses that are gonna be coming out of there for projects. And our federal funding amount has not changed for our STEM account. ARPA is not held with us. That's held by the state.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
No?
Is there a motion to approve?
Yes, we would entertain a motion regarding the minutes.
I move for approval.
A second?
Second.
All right. All right.
Thank you, JW.
Absolutely. Ms. Gary?
Aye.
General Lyman?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Chairwoman Rolls?
Aye.
And Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Thank you all very much. Okay, moving on to item number 6. Would be our executive director's report. Craig, you are on.
All right. Catch you up on our ARPA project. This is federal funding that we received to do the water and wastewater project we have at the airport to improve our systems out there. The notice, of course, we went through months to get it to this process, to select an engineering firm. The engineering firm carried us to put together a scope of work that would ultimately be bid out to OMES to find a contractor. We had to go through that a couple of different times because the first time they opened it up, we only had one bidder. So we extended the timeline for contractors to bid, had another on-site visit with contractors to come in and look at the scope of work and look at the situation. Ultimately, we had 3, I think, submitted proposals, and then one was selected. A notice to proceed was issued on February 27. We had them out on last Friday. The contractors and OMES came to the site to kind of coordinate the staging area, where they're going to start, all that information last Friday. They tell us that they're going to begin and have people on site beginning this next Monday. And I'm told the project length is 360 days. That's within the time period that we had this completed. So all the billing and everything should be completed by hopefully summer of 2026, if not by fall of 2026. It all has to be spent by December of 2026. So we're well within that margin to get that completed. We're very excited to have them here. That'll be a huge project. And again, this is one that we received a certain amount of money to pay for the project. Once the contractor got on site and looked at the scope of work, the actual cost to do that exceeded the amount that we received in ARPA funds. So we've had to utilize some of our prep money to be able to shore that up. So that's diminished our prep account. That will diminish our prep account by about 1.5 million. So that's where we are on our prep, on the ARPA. That'll all be expended. So that was the goal, is to make sure we spent every bit of that and there wouldn't be any left over to turn back into the government.
Is there a deadline?
December 26, December 31st of 2026.
This one? 26.
Has to be spent and expended.
We're gonna do that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's great that they're getting started. I know it's taken a while to just get everything laid flat. The procurement process is not a simple one.
We had to jump through some hoops to finally get there, but we're really excited where we are now. We're excited with Wind Construction. They're very excited to be on the project, and they'll be starting this Monday.
Good.
On the prep, as I've said, we're going to have to make some adjustments to that. We've got projects on site. They began in November, starting on phase 1, which is the pavement area in front of Premium Aerospace and some of our hangars on the south apron. The second phase of that is expected to begin on or about May 1 or 2, which, May 1st of May. But we've already been notified that the first phase has exceeded, or looks like it's going to exceed the amount. So I think we had 3.8 set aside for that, and I think we've got a change order of 520, or a little over $500,000 to plus that up. So we're going to have to spend a little bit more of our prep money on addressing that.
Okay. Craig, could you kind of explain what necessitated that change order?
And Joe will probably have to help me on this as well, but when the engineering firm goes and does their scope of work and analysis of what needs to be done, there's a visual inspection of the pavement, an assessment is made that this spall will need to be repaired, these joint seals probably won't produce spall when we clean them. Some of these panels need to be replaced, and then a spall, to educate you a little bit, is broken pavement. And that typically occurs at the corner of a panel. I thought I had some pictures, I don't have it on this particular slide, but when that happens, they usually jackhammer that out. Many times those spall are just a couple inches deep. You don't know how deep it goes until you start jackhammering it. And so it's kind of hard to make an assessment on how deep those go. 2 inches, 4 inches, up to about 5 inches is acceptable to be able to put filler in. Anything beyond that, then they start looking at half a panel or entire panel replacement. And so the assessments are kind of difficult to calculate when you do a concrete runway or a concrete apron. So those initial assessments, how would you describe
the
that?
initial, when the engineer was doing the initial assessments? He based it on they used an analysis of the previous project 4, 5, 6 years ago, and said, well, there was this much spall per so many panels, all the pavement's the same age, gets basically the same use. So we can expect this much spall, panel replacement, and so forth. It was completely way under, as it turns out. And the area that they're working on is some of the worst pavement on the airport. So there's just a lot more spall repair, a lot more panel replacement. Luckily, the engineer and the contractor, they made some adjustments throughout the project where they cut down on the spall. They did more panel replacements, and we just eventually we ran up against quantity limits and limits of the overall project. The state will only let you go 15% over, and that's what we're doing. And the change order work that we're doing is, and you'll have it in your books, it's all the areas in front of PAC. We want to get that done. And then actually, we're hoping that the runway, which has already been bidded and awarded, will be pretty accurate. And we've had, last week I had a number of engineers from Lochner and ODAA, their engineer, and going out and looking at the runway, and then, I've also looked at it. It looks like it was bid correctly, so we'll have some room to come back and finish the big apron there, because this change order won't complete that apron. We'll need another, we'll either have to have it bid out on a separate project or hopefully catch it in phase 2 of the runway project.
Is there a record of how old each section is, when it was redone, who did it?
The airport was built in the early 50s by the Air Force, their contractors. So all the pavement is basically the same age.
About 7 years old.
And one of the things that I didn't mention is, and Craig got into it, you can look at it, an engineer can look at it and go, well, that's a spall. The contractor got in there and started jackhammering, and it was just breaking away in places, not everywhere. And that has to do with the high water table and the amount of, part of that area is in a floodplain. And I think just over 70 years, it's deteriorated some of the concrete. This airport, this type of airport, any airport with concrete panels, you have to do regular spall repair and joint seal. You've got to keep the water from getting in there because it eats away at your sub base.
But as far as panel replacement, we've had little of that.
We have done a huge amount of panel replacement on this project.
But I mean.
But prior to
so now-
that, no.
This is the first maintenance that's ever been done to the runway for,
The runways we did our kill, the middle portion of the runway, 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
And then we did the small runway, but really nothing else. So this is the first major repairs rehab on aprons and on taxiways. And it's in desperate need.
We did this project, as Joe alluded, about 6 years ago before I came on board, and that was one that they had the number of days that they were going to do the project. And as they did the spall and as they identified more panel replacements, it extended another 3 months, I think, beyond the time that they originally done it. So it was, I don't know if you were on, I know Mike, you might have been on at the time, but that was one of the projects that just kept getting extended, because of that same reason. As you start getting deeper on that, if you just pour filler into that deep spall, you're gonna have trouble later on if it gets deep enough. So they end up having to replace panels, and you just don't know until you start jackhammering it.
They will jackhammer, and then they will do a ping test. And if it pings, you know that crack has stopped. If it thuds, you know that it's still a crack in there, and you gotta keep going. And then they've also taken and looking at a panel and go, well, I think if it was more than, they worked out the formula, but if it was more than 40% of the panel needing spall repair, it was cheaper just to do a full or half panel replacement. So they really worked hard at that, but there was just so much, spall repair and panel replacement.
So, and what happens, you've got the contractor on site doing this, and you have an engineer that represents the engineering firm standing over their shoulder, making sure that everything's copacetic on those.
And we have ODAA, their engineer, Katie, she's on top of it. There's a lot of eyes looking at what's going on and watching over it. But there's unknowns until you get into it.
So that being said, we've set aside, and these numbers probably change each time you see them, but we've set aside that figure at the top to do this. But as we're starting to see an overrun on the ARPA project, where we have to pull some money aside, overruns on hangar development and taxiway development for general aviation and for some of the hangars we've got planned. If that goes a little tall, then we have to pull from the pavement projects as well. So we're looking right now, certainly we'll finish these first 2 phases of the pavement project, phases 3, 4, and 5. We'll continue to assess and find out what happens to us with our funding request at the legislature, to see if we get any additional funding that might be able to shore some of this up. And then some of the stuff we'll be discussing with our joint use partners as well, might be able to recoup some of that. But there's a lot of things in flux right now to find out how much of that is actually what we have to spend.
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but one of the things we're going to ask for approval today is Lochner. They're going to bring out a team, and they're going to look at all the 3 future phases, and they're going to walk it and inspect each panel. Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you. That's
Frowned
helpful.
So that's kind of where we are on
Yeah,
prep.
well, that's helpful, I think, for everyone to
So
understand.
is a portion of our annual budget, it's set aside for repair of the runway?
A portion of the JUA is set aside, and if we have enough outside of operations, repairs and all those things are factored in as well. I put these slides up because I know that this meeting is observed by people here in the meeting, but this link stays up for a while, and those that may be interested in where we compare to other states, I just wanted to put this out here, how we compare to other states and other spaceports, how much money and funding that they receive. I'll let these words sink for a moment.
Go back.
Go
one
back.
point.
I'm sorry.
Man.
Yeah.
Moving too
Let's go.
fast.
Let's go. Feel free to read and say, follow the bouncing ball and tell me when you finish. This is a slide that I've shared with the House Budget Committee, and I'm pretty sure the Senate Budget Committee as well. But certainly want to make sure that you're aware of it. So these are talking points for you to be able to carry and utilize.
I'll do it for half.
I hadn't seen
I also told my coach OSU football for $1 billion, and I didn't get
Okay.
any takers on that either. I can go 3 and 8 for $1 billion.
Yeah.
General Lyman, you've seen these. This is one I shared with the downtown Rotary when I spoke with them. This is material that I'll share with civic groups when I go speak to local Rotaries and chambers of commerce. great stat at the bottom, where space is and where it's going. And this is one that might be useful as well, kind of where we are and what other states are rapidly trying to do. I've heard a statesman from Oklahoma say Texas would give their eye teeth to have what we have in southwest Oklahoma at the spaceport, but they couldn't afford to build it. But other states are actively trying to put spaceports together in their state. And this might,
It's cheaper to maintain it than it is to build it.
absolutely.
Right.
And this might be one worth photographing. This is kind of our history of appropriations for, I had Kim and JW compile our appropriations over the years. You'll see the figure there of about 11 million for the last 25 years. And then this is kind of the average appropriation, the appropriation we've gotten each year. I'll be glad to send that to you.
That's good.
So, this was when we have a large aerospace tent that comes and utilizes our airport for testing of their aircraft. We've put them on the south apron this time. They began arriving last Monday with their advance crew. The actual aircraft arrived yesterday. They saw some material on the south end of the apron where we have them staged for this, since we're doing work on the north apron where they typically stage. So we set them up on the south apron. Their crew had looked at it and had some concerns with some of this fall that were taking place down there. So we'd asked make sure, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Joe, if we'd asked the contractors to focus their attention quickly while they're on site to go down and address some of those issues on the south apron so they could be able to park that aircraft safely on the south end. This was pictures taken yesterday of that crew doing some work on there, Joe. Right?
No, it's not on the south apron.
Oh.
It's on the north apron. They did the work Monday.
Okay.
Monday.
This is on the south, right?
Mhm.
Okay, these are pictures from the south, and of course, in the hangar that they're utilizing. And you can see in that bottom picture, all those cars. There's probably about, at least 50 cars, maybe 70 cars there.
Yeah.
You probably can't find, if you can't find a rental car in Oklahoma City right now, it's because they're all in Burns Flat, because when they step off that aircraft, they give each technician and engineer a set of car keys and a hotel key. And so they'll stay here, buying food, eating in restaurants, shopping in our grocery stores, working out at our gyms for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Boeing, this particular company brings their own fire trucks, and that's what you see in that middle picture. And that's it, sitting on the ground.
Very cool.
Some of our tenant construction, this is what their hangar that they're working on looked like when it began. I'll show you some phases of this progress. The 2 large cranes that they brought out a couple of months ago. Advanced stages of it. Beautiful blue sky in the background. And that's what it looked like yesterday.
Very nice.
And then
Definitely some significant improvements there.
absolutely.
Yes.
Great investment, great partners.
Yeah,
And
very much so.
that will, we did add a new staffer. I think I discussed this at the last meeting, but Cassie Whetstone has started on our staff in late November. She's training to replace JW, and JW's, of course, been training for the last 5 years to replace Kim when she decides to retire. And I think that should conclude my director's report.
Okay, great, thank you.
I have a question. This single page that you gave us, are you going to be talking about the stuff that's on the back of this somewhere else, or?
I
is
think
that
Gabe
in
will
the-
probably touch on that in his Artemis group. They're the ones that put that one together.
Okay, the Tulsa, Birds Flat, and Norman stuff.
That's your cue, Gabe.
Okay, so we are on to agenda item number 7. Do we have Gabe?
Eric came in here and started the team's meeting. He should be good to hop on whenever.
whenever. Eric, if you can hear us.
Can you hear it? There we go. Gabe, can you hear us?
Loud and clear. How me?
All right. Hey, a question was also asked before you get started about the one pager and the information on the back pages. So about the progress that Artemis is doing. But you're on. I'm sorry, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're on, Gabe.
All right. Thank you, guys, and thank you for bearing with me on my schedule today. So I'll just start at the top. A couple of really good updates with Agile Space and the engine testing facility we've been discussing here for the better part of 7 or 8 months now. Funding documents have been officially signed on both sides, from the company and the state side, which is really exciting. That means this is official, and we look at having some really good discussions and announcements out at Space Symposium. And so that should be a really good day for the state of Oklahoma, for OSIDA, and for all involved. So I just want to say thank you to the board and to Craig and everybody involved who started with this idea out at Symposium last April. And now we're going to get to go to Symposium this year and talk about how the state of Oklahoma is focused on space industry development across the state, with this kind of being the first domino to fall. So I think that's just a fantastic story for everyone involved, and so just wanted to start there. Secondly, there's a few meetings and tours that are coming up, and Craig, I don't know if you touched on any of this earlier in your update, but what's interesting is the word is starting to spread that there's this spaceport in Oklahoma that's very interested in identifying different types of potential launch activities that could happen out of the spaceport. And so we've got a conversation next week. And General Lyman, I don't know if you're available, but this would probably be a really good one for you to participate in with Air Force Research Laboratory and some other members of that are tangentially connected to that organization within Space Force. They want to start having a discussion about what it is that we're looking at and some of the things that we're considering here. So that might be a good one for you to participate in. That would be next Thursday. And so that's more on the traditional inland launch, right, which is in line with some of the study work that we're doing. So I think the word is kind of getting out that we're looking at these things. And that's exciting, that we're the inland spaceport that they're starting to talk to about these types of thoughts and opportunities. There's 2 other companies as well that have a different approach to launch that are interested in having discussions. And Phoenix Space is one that'll be on site next week at the spaceport. And their launch, their architecture, their ConOps is a tow-behind launch vehicle. So they have a 737 in the lead with a tow-behind platform, and then from there you get airborne, and the vehicle actually launches while it's being towed. So you're saving a lot of energy by already being off the ground, and then being moving whenever you start your burn to get to orbit. These are early technologies, right? But they're interested in potentially testing some of their vehicles out at Burns Flat, and then just kind of seeing what could happen from there. The near-term opportunity is around test, though. So that's Phoenix Space. Another one is called Radian Space, and Radian Space is a sled, a jet-powered sled that has the vehicle sitting on the sled. They need a large runway, and it's a single stage to orbit launch. So the idea here is to get the vehicle up to Mach 1 on the rocket-powered sled, and then it has 5 engines on their actual vehicle that are probably similar in size to like RS-25 engines that you would have seen on the space shuttle. So they're larger engines. Vehicle heads down the runway on the sled, and then once it's reached the speed of right around Mach 1, and it launches and heads to orbit. So that one's down the road a little ways as well. That's something that's very interesting, and Burns Flat is a place they would like to have multiple launch sites. They're well funded. They've kind of done a lot of the early work. And so they're interested in coming out and seeing the spaceport and having some conversations as well. Now, these are technologies that are down the road just a little bit, but it ties in with the inland launch study that we're engaged in as well, because we're going to find out what we can and what we can't do potentially in that study. What are some things that we could actually lean into or maybe move away from over time? And these alternative launch vehicles and alternative ways of getting to orbit they're gonna pick up steam over time too, especially as you have the backlog and the traffic out at the main spaceports on the coasts. So this problem is going to be solved one way or the other down the road, and I think we're in the conversations right now, which is good position for us to be in. Moving to symposium, we have a lot coming together out there on the ground. Oklahoma breakfast, a lot of meetings that are starting to come together. The lieutenant governor will be out there again. So again, a big development opportunity for the state. And we're going to be working with Craig and the team here on the other side of Satellite, which is where I'm at up here in DC, to line up the right types of meetings. He'll be there. Tuesday will be his heavy day out at Symposium. So we'll try and book that full. Brenda lived that last year. I think, I'm not sure how many steps we got her in on Tuesday last year or Thursday last year, but
Quite
it was a
few.
lot of them.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah, it was a lot of them. So anyway, we'll do the same thing. Again, the development opportunities that we're realizing now are a result of conversations that happened out there to begin with. And so we'll fill the calendar full with targeted companies and go see what we can make happen. And so that's the second week of April. Backing up from Symposium just a little bit, there's the Aero Day down at the Capitol. I think, Craig, that's April 2nd, if I remember right.
Correct.
And Jim will be down there speaking. I'll be down there as well. There's a few other activities that they've asked me to kind of jump into, and so we'll have a good presence down there again to be able to tell the story of success that we're starting to build here across the state. And lastly, the Satellite Conference is one of the ones that Craig and I talked about as we've been up here multiple years in a row now, but the question was, would it be right for OSIDA to participate? And my initial read is that it's probably not one to participate in, only because it's a lot of parts and components and satellite manufacturers and networked architectures, in low Earth orbit or in geostationary orbit. So it's just a different conversation. And there might be some manufacturing opportunities that could come from participation, but I think from a space conference perspective, Symposium and SpaceCom, which was I think a month and a half ago, I think those are still the top two targets.
Gabe, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Rob Lyman here. For the satellite conference, is the Department of Commerce, the ACES folks, are they engaged in that one or involved at all?
No, sir.
No.
They're not.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Yeah, good question. There was one opportunity that we've been kind of working with this company called the Exploration Company. We've been engaged in conversations with them on the Artemis Group side here for about 6 months, and had a really good discussion with them up here yesterday. And they're actually in a place, they're based in Europe. They're expanding into the United States. Just an incredible company. You guys get some time to look them up, but they are looking for where they want to call home in the U.S. And so it was an interesting conversation yesterday. They had not considered Oklahoma. They've been focused on Texas. But I think we had a good conversation about it yesterday. So it wouldn't surprise me, Craig, if we get an opportunity to bring them to the state here before too long as well, and be a really good target for us out at Symposium.
Yeah, that'd be a great meeting. Appreciate that.
Well, I'll stop there. I've been rambling a bit here, but appreciate you guys let me dial in to today, and I'll just pause for any questions.
Questions? Deidre, you had questions about the one pager?
No, I didn't have any questions. I just thought it would be nice to highlight these things that we've done. And I was
Yes.
hoping somebody would give me some, just talk about them. That's all.
Okay.
Wait, he hit the first one. That's the Agile Space up in Tulsa.
Gotcha.
That,
Yeah.
you talked
Gotcha.
Dawn Aerospace. We didn't, I don't think you talked about OU though. Gabe,
Yep,
we're talking
yep.
about the one pager that you all put together, the port project update, and on the back, there's, 3 kind of paragraphs, one about Tulsa and Agile, which you talked about, one about Dawn Aerospace at Burns Flat, and the last is about, Space Propulsion Lab at OU, which you didn't really touch on today. Can you give us a few sentences on that?
Yes, yeah, apologies, Deirdre. I know Craig brought that up at the beginning and I forgot, so I apologize.
no big deal.
So yeah, Agile's, we're in good shape, Dawn. Good update there. On the Phase 4 MOU with OU, General Lyman, I think you were at the event that happened, if I remember right. I think that's where I met you for the first time. But there's an opportunity here with Phase 4. They do radio frequency electric propulsion with iodine as the fuel source, and so they're in the R&D phase of that particular technology. And so we have the 3rd largest supply of iodine in the world in Oklahoma, and so the University of Oklahoma has done great research on the iodine and has great researchers on site there in Norman. And so the idea here is as Phase 4 gets better capitalized and as they get opportunities to invest in that technology, finding an R1 research university that they can partner with that has familiarity with iodine is important in their critical path. And so the MOU was signed to just signal that this is the preferred direction that Phase 4 would like to go, and that OU is open to having those additional conversations. It's one of those high-level MOUs, nothing binding, no exchange of funds, but it's just a signal that this is something that both parties are very interested in. And so I think Phase 4 is working through their technology development. OU is ready to assist and facilitate when they can, and I think it will eventually come together where Phase 4 is bringing money to the table, potentially OU or some grant opportunities that come together to establish what they're calling the OPAL, which is the Oklahoma Plasma Acceleration Laboratory, OPAL. And that would consist of a thermal vacuum chamber and a lot of tech that goes around it, where you can take those smaller electric thrusters and test them with iodine and really fine tune them in that thermal vacuum chamber. And then the hope is that if we're doing the testing, the research and the development there at OU, that the next step would be moving to larger scale manufacturing. And the natural transition would be right here in the Oklahoma City, Norman area for larger scale thruster production. So that's the big picture on that particular effort. But getting the MOU signed was kind of step one. And so now it's kind of on Phase 4 to continue to develop the tech and kind of lead us towards next steps.
Thank you.
And
You
I
bet.
just might add there, Gabe, that Phase 4 actually has some thrusters flying. They're not with iodine as a fuel, so they have some proven technology already, so they're just really looking at alternative
replacement.
fuels. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point.
Okay, any other questions for Gabe?
Just one
Yes,
comment, if I may.
yes.
Hey, Gabe, one suggestion. For future board meetings, it'd be handy if you had a slide or two, because you cover
Okay.
a lot of ground in your talking points. So it'd be a little easier to follow along and kind of as a takeaway for board members. So just a recommendation for future board updates.
Roger that. We'll make that happen, and when Craig sends you information ahead of the board meeting, I'll make sure it's in the package.
Thank
We'll
you.
get that done.
Much
You bet.
appreciated. And if you'll let me know about the AFRL meeting you mentioned, I'm happy to work the calendars and see if I can be there.
Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
I think we can let you go, Gabe. Thank you very much for participating.
All right. Thanks all.
Thanks,
Okay,
Gabe.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, very good. Moving on to item number 8. Discussion and possible action regarding Premium Aerospace Center's request to lease additional land to build a hangar and associated parking lots and warehouses.
Absolutely. So thank you for the opportunity. As you saw in the previous slides, they're progressing on their the development of one of the existing hangars that they've leased from us. looks really promising. I want to give you a kind of an overhead look. This is a different map for a different issue, but this kind of outlines kind of where everything is at the airport. That's the main runway to the left. That's the large pavement apron that we're doing some work on there in the middle. And that land off to the right is where a couple of entities are starting to look at some development for the Comstock has spoken with us. That's kind of the area over there. But
Over where?
yeah, I probably need to come to each one of your screens to show you. Comstock would be operating this area over here.
Okay.
Lasers don't work on these, so I'm sorry.
I know.
Kind of the bottom right quadrant, kind of, yeah.
That's how the area that Comstock and others, this other company that came up last week are looking at. But I'll show you, that gives you a perspective on the whole airport. This slide right here will show you, this is provided to us by Mass Architecture and the Premium Aerospace team. The outline in the red dashed are the areas that they're looking to add to, or to do a land lease with us, to develop an even larger hangar than the one the one you saw in the pictures earlier. They also have some land outside of the fence in the industrial park that they've identified that they need to build parking for their employees and then add some additional warehouses for intake and outtake of their materials. So that is that red dashed line on the left side of the screen in the top, that is outside of the area that Comstock and other companies are looking at, so that it wouldn't interfere with that, and it doesn't appear to interfere with PAC's plans either. So I want to give you a depiction on what they're seeking. And there's really not an issue here, other than I just want to make the board aware of it and let you know, and I guess get permission from the board to be able to move forward with negotiations on the land lease and all the perimeters of that. There's not another financial ask or anything like that with this agenda item. It's basically for an awareness.
Well, it's great, and it's really nice to see PAC's long-term plans and the development that's occurring there, and I know there's a significant focus on economic development for that area. Summer, that's really important for the people in that part of the state, so we appreciate this information.
Where do those funds go?
For the land lease? Gosh, I guess it'd be a mix, because some of it's outside the fence, some of it's inside the fence. How does that get? It'd all be aviation, so.
There's some, eventually, future phases will be non-aviation.
Yeah, what account would that fall into?
That'd have to be an internal discussion that we have. Historically, we've never had any tenants.
Inside and outside the fence, yeah.
So.
But in effect, it comes back into the OSIDA budget that we have discretion to use on projects, et cetera.
Typically, how we separate is stuff inside the fence, that money stays and gets reinvested into the airport for pavement and all those other things. And outside the fence, it's infrastructure for the air park, so
Okay.
this will be a.
So there really isn't much flexibility with the airport fund. It has to stay on the airport.
Yep.
I think the outside fund, you
Yeah,
kind
I mean, we could.
use it on the airport or
Okay.
in the air park.
Yeah, and that's an FAA rule that if any generated funds on the airport side have to stay with the airport.
Okay.
But with OSIDA's governing the entire area, those funds that are generated outside can be put back into anywhere.
Good question.
Craig, can I ask a quick question on the map? Just to make sure I understand. So PAC Area A, that's the current hangar project, right?
No.
That's where
No.
235 is?
Yeah,
No?
234 is the current.
234 is the current.
233 is another one that they have leased.
Okay. And then, so A and D,
D is a future request, it's not being requested at this time.
okay. A, that's the next phase of what they want to do hangar-wise?
235 hangar in the parking lot.
Okay, that's,
Employee parking lot.
okay, and then what is PAC Area C? In the
That's-
upper left?
Yeah, upper left.
That is one to be discussed in the future. I think that's just kind of the long-term plans.
Okay, so A and B.
Technically, area C
Mhm.
would be future businesses that come in to complement things such as manufacturing or a seat shop or a brake shop.
I gotcha.
Or something like that,
Okay.
that we would eventually need.
And
The
then
cur- the
A and B are the next hangar and the parking lot and fire suppression, et cetera.
Correct, with a headquarters and a shipping and receiving,
Got it, got it.
things like that.
Thank you. I was just trying to visualize what I've heard about as to where it's going.
And so the request today is A and B.
A,
Just A?
yes.
B will be closely related in the future.
Yep.
Okay.
So 235 and then parking lot.
I got it. And really, we're just entering negotiations and beginning the process today. I got you. Okay.
And so Bailey Warren, is this something we need to vote on? I know we had some discussion that this is part of what OSIDA does, is enter into agreements, so.
I think it's on our agenda for,
Information.
discussion possible action, so if the board wants to take the vote, it would just be, for that property, but.
I don't know that we need a vote at this stage. I would recommend we don't need a vote.
Anyone have a strong feeling opposite of General Lyman that we?
I mean, I think that we should let Craig know that this is something that we think he should move forward with making a, continue with the discussions with
Yeah,
PAC.
yeah.
I don't know if that needs a vote or not, but Craig needs to know that we agree, so maybe
Yeah.
that is a
Yes.
vote. I don't know.
Appreciate that.
I don't know that it needs a vote, but I agree with you to move forward.
You can make it kind of a
I
general.
think we
hey,
need a vote if we're all saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to make a motion
Thank you.
for Craig to start negotiations with PAC about Area A.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Ms. Gurry,
Aye.
General Lyman,
Yes.
Mr. Schultz,
Aye.
Chairwoman Rolls,
Aye,
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
very good. Thank you so much. Now, moving on to item number 9. Discussion and possible action regarding ODAA contract approvals. So Craig and Joe, what can you tell us about this?
All right, so
I've heard about this.
this is a great partnership that we have with other agencies in the state, as we do with the ACES program at Commerce. We partner with them on trade shows. ODAA, we partner with them on our airport development projects, and so we count on their expertise. They stand between us. And the projects. They've got engineers on staff that look this over. They go through the OMES process of doing selecting contractors, the engineers. So they are our lead on these kinds of projects. This is one that their committee or their commission approved this morning, or had on their agenda this morning. I presume that they passed it. But we wanted to just cue this one up for our awareness as well. There are 3 different matters on this particular one. And how this works is that ODA stands in front, they pay it, and then they invoice us for the process, and they don't charge us anything for it. And these are all paid for using a prep fund. So Joe, can you talk about each one of these issues? And what we do is by the dollar figure that it is, this is why it's being brought to the board.
Itching to talk.
You're right.
The first one is a Lochner Amendment for the rehabilitation quality analysis. And what they're going to do is take the last 3 remaining phases that's still being worked on as far as putting the whole packages together. They're going to go to each phase, A, B, and C, and look at each panel and make sure that what goes into the bidding documents, it will be accurate, so that the contractor can bid on it accurately. We won't run into the same problem we run in phase 1 with this huge change order at the end of 15%. This is to hopefully keep that from happening. It's important for us to know, and the contractor to know, but for us to know before we put something out to bid, about, approximately engineer's opinion of probable cost, what that's gonna cost us. So we can say, well, let's move forward with it or let's not. And so that's the amendment there. The next one is something that we've been wanting to do for a long time is get the airport surveyed and get an airport layout diagram. It's not as intensive as an airport master plan, but what this will do is they'll go out and they will, basically everything west of 2nd Street can be airport. So they're gonna survey everything west of 2nd Street and then the entire airport, plot it out, legal descriptions. As part of this, they are also going to write a legal description for PAC Area A for us. They're gonna survey that area, so, when, as part of the lease. And then at the end of the project, we will have an airport layout diagram that we can take to the FAA when we're asking for grants and go and say, we want to do something over here. It's plotted out on the airport, official airport layout diagram. And that'll just help us in the future. And the third one is a new contract. It goes hand in hand with this amendment that Lochner's doing. They're going to be putting all the whole bid packages together for phases 3, 4, and 5. And they will, all that's involved in that, NEPA, CADX, stormwater prevention plans, and get the big documents ready, and get it bid ready, and then that's where the contract stops for the moment, because we're not sure if we're going to be able to bid them out with current funds. So
These feel pretty important.
These are important,
These
yes.
feel pretty important.
Yes.
Do we have an alternative plan? Move for approval.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the recommendation from for our agents as well. They said this is what you've got to do to be able to move forward on these
And these
projects.
were approved at ODA.
yeah.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Ms. Gurry?
Aye.
General Lyman?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Chairwoman Rolls?
Aye.
And Mr. Henry?
Yes.
All right. Very good. Good stuff is happening out there. A lot of good work going on, you guys.
Starting to spend that prep money.
I know,
It's
I
gonna
know.
start.
Now, yeah.
As I told
The dominoes are starting to fall.
I told the legislator the other day that the plug has been pulled. It's draining now.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of upfront planning, and now the activities can really start. Okay, agenda item 10, discussion and possible action regarding pavement rehab Phase 1 change order.
So this is following up on Phase 1. That's the part in the pink, or the reddish, I guess is the red on this, maybe the orange. The second color from the left. And so this is the project I was telling you earlier, is they started to kind of, the original engineering report wasn't as, how do I delicately put this? They've got more data now than they had, I think, when they bid the project, so this is the result of it. We know now that it's going to cost us at least this much more to be able to finish that one out. So, Joe, you want to get into detail on?
They just found a lot more damage than was originally estimated. So we've hit our limits. We want to do this change. This change order is going to really focus on, I think you have another slide.
I do, yeah.
Right there. It's going to focus, that red area is what this change order is focusing on. And it focusing on the area of hangar 233, 234, 232, which Summer with PAC has said that they are interested in leasing out from us too. So we want to get that pavement ready. And then 231.
So PAC, and then we're Bow integrated.
So this gets taken care of as far as their aprons and all that.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it all the way to 235, but we're gonna have time to come back and work on that area. The 500 plus thousand is gonna be spent on that red area. And that's our limit. We can't go any higher than that.
This was approved at ODA this morning as well.
We have plans to go further, but not right now.
Where, does this money impact some future plans? Like, did you have this money set aside for something else, and what are we gonna lose from it? Just curious.
Right, so this
Because
is,
this is obviously very important, we need to do it. I just was wondering if you had a plan.
this is all part of that 15 million that we set aside for pavement repairs. And so it's been just drawing down from that. We had identified 3.8, I think, originally for this project. And so now it's bumped up to,
Okay, so somewhere else on the airfield will have to be delayed, is what you're saying? Okay.
phases 3, 4, and 5 are questionable right now, or at least at this time.
But, so each year, we have another lump sum to go towards maintenance of the runway. Can that commingle?
But the money that we get from JUA
Uh-huh.
is going into this as well. And that money has been factored into this, into our calculations for these pavement projects. We need to spend that down to be able to continue to receive money from Air Force. They're gonna look and say, how you spent it? And we're gonna be able to point to them, hopefully tomorrow. This is where it's going. This is we're being responsible with it. It's gonna benefit you in the long run. But
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay.
Ms. Gary,
Aye.
Chairman Lyman,
Aye.
Mr. Schultz,
Aye.
Chairman Rolls,
Aye.
and Mr. Young.
Yes.
Okay. Agenda item 11, discussion and possible action regarding contract approval to Telco for fiber optic installation for high-speed internet expansion.
So this is a project that we initially had identified to be an ARPA project, and we'd made motions and movements to start this project. We went through OMES, we worked with their specialists to talk about what the different options we could have to be able to install this, and put and expand high-speed services into the park. We've got high-speed fiber to our headquarters building. Now we're wanting to expand that out and be able to put wireless ports throughout the industrial park and to the airport, and some, what do they call these things? Pull boxes for tenants to be able to draw from that high speed to be able to pull it to their specific building. Regrettably, every bit of our ARPA money got spent and then some. So but we've committed to do this project. We want to be able to put this high speed in, firstly for our tenants and for future tenants. Secondly, because it's part of our security access for our gates, to be able to have the proximity cards and the cameras at each gate. So this will factor into that as well. We've committed to do it. I've set some money aside of our prep that we utilize for some of this, but this is a state-approved contractor. This is the pathway that they've shown that would be ideal to put it. We've reached out to our tenants to make sure that if this doesn't interfere with their plans. But as it stands right now, this is the pathway that we'll take, and be able to put fiber into these areas and then be able to provide capacity for tenants to be able to draw upon or do wireless bridges or something along those lines. Joe, you want to have anything to add to that?
No, not really. It's dark fiber. We're gonna own it. But our tenants can use Dobson to connect to it. The plan. Dobson is one of the fiber internet broadband companies in our area.
Okay.
The other one is Kinetic, and we've chosen Dobson. And Telco's a really good company at putting it. They know this type of work. They're really good at doing it. The state recommended them. We have a little bit of flexibility. If PAC or one of our other tenants says, "Hey, I put this pull box 10 feet that way, you know, we can do that.
So we own it. Can you define that? What does that mean?
It means we own it, we're responsible for the maintenance of it. If something happens with it,
Somebody cuts it?
somebody cuts it.
Is it expensive enough to need insurance?
I don't think so. I mean, they can come out and repair it. It's gonna be, on a loop, is it?
Yeah. It'll be on a loop. It isn't just OSIDA and telco. There's the state networking and development team that is overseeing all of it. You know, they're picking the vendor, they're helping create these, earth maps,
So-
and plan everything out.
So in effect, from the meetings we had, where I asked questions about this,
Yeah.
this puts us on the state's IT infrastructure, extends it beyond your building to around the airfield here, so it can be used tapped into by tenants, and/or used for things like security upgrades in the future, additional kind of IT requirements in and around the airfield, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right now Boeing wants 1 gig of broadband for all their test data.
Yeah.
And we're giving it to them, so.
So in effect, it adds additional infrastructure to make the airport more attractive, the airfield more attractive.
This is, yeah, another stuff. We've done the water, the wastewater.
Does this also, right, exactly, it's more infrastructure in that regard. Does it also include, we had talked about OSIDA now being supported by the state, where I think it was OMES becomes your IT service provider, they do the cybersecurity for us, or is that separate?
That is, this intermingles with that. This is the dark fiber build out.
Right.
What you're speaking on was voted on, I believe, in the January meeting. And
Got it.
That's, yeah, they're.
Okay, so
they're
that part's already approved.
And that's starting next week,
Okay.
the network upgrades.
Got it.
So.
Craig, you had talked earlier on this about funding. It was ARPA, and now it's something else. So how is this being paid for?
This would be paid for using PrEP.
Using PrEP, okay.
So we take on the liability of maintenance, but
Well,
no income off of it?
Well, with the dark fiber, we own it, so then we will have, and explain how this works. because
So,
we do
becomes
get
part
the
of the
state,
lease,
the
right.
state requires, that, and they find this in multiple places throughout the state. Somebody comes and says, Dobson comes and says, we want to use your fiber to connect this tenant. We don't want to be the
Provider.
account holder, provider for that tenant. Dobson will be, but Dobson will pay us a fee to use that fiber. And the state already has, it's common for them, so they have a process for that.
They have a standardized contract structure for it, and all of that won't be between OSIDA and a potential tenant. It will be between the state of Oklahoma networking and that potential tenant.
And Dr. Henry, to answer your question, so anything before our headquarters, if that line was cut, that's on Dobson. From our headquarters out throughout the airpark, it's ours, so ultimately, we would need to get it repaired. But just like anything that's damaged on the airport, if somebody damages it, I mean, we'll go after them to make the repair. You know, if somebody hits our fence, we own the fence, but OHP, their cadets drive through our fence all the time. We bill them for that, so. Same with fiber. If there's a contractor out there, first of all, they have to get our approval to dig in our air park. We're gonna know they're gonna be there, and if they are digging, they cut through it, then they'll be liable.
Okay, and what is the dollar figure we're talking about here?
266,079,
Okay.
And
80,
92 cents.
yeah.
92.
80,
Okay.
let's round it up to 80.
Okay.
266,080.
And what's the timeline?
As soon as we sign the contract, they'll procure material. They think it's about a month of construction. So, 3 or 4 months and we should have it.
So that's another layer of capabilities to be able to
We're
share
gonna
with
move
tenants.
very quickly on it.
Second.
And the attraction for business, if that's not obvious, is you can save a gobble of money on a fiber build out, because it's already to there. instead of coming, a mile down the road with it.
Okay, great. I think we have a motion. and a
Motion to
sec-
approve in a second.
I'm sorry, who's our motion?
Line.
Motion approved, yeah.
I second.
All right, Ms. Gary,
Aye.
Chairman Lyman,
Aye.
Mr. Schultz.
Aye.
Chairwoman Rolls,
Aye.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Okay, agenda item number 12. Any concluding board member comments regarding agenda items that we'd like to revisit?
Madam Chairman, I would like to add some comments about just in general of what's going on out there. I think I've made this comment before and hadn't done it in a few months, but I was in the room in Clinton the night that this property was deeded from the city of Clinton to the state. So I've watched this, I don't know what to call it, project out there for many, many, many years. And what's been going on the last couple of years is absolutely phenomenal. We've talked about it before where we used to sit in these board meetings and talk about mowing grass or tearing down buildings or, anything other than what we're truly supposed to be talking about, which is development of space. And now we spend an entire board meeting talking about development of space and not talking about mowing grass and tearing down buildings. The progress that's been made in the last 2 to 3 years out there is tremendous, thanks to PAC, thanks to Artemis Group, thanks to Boeing. It's great to see Boeing show up, not just show up, but show up for several weeks at a time and basically bring an army of people with them. And so what's going on at that facility now with the buildings that have been taken down, the improvements that are being made, hangar renovation, new hangars being built, it does me well to finally see it starting to happen. So thanks to everybody involved in that. And I probably ought to do this every month, but at least every couple of months anyway, because this deal truly is, it's moved farther in the last couple of years. This moved in the previous 20. And it really is on the verge of exploding out there, and it's kind of fun to see and be a part of. So thank everybody involved.
Thank you for your comments. Well said.
Adding on to that, so I had to go to a beauty pageant in Woodward. And
Had to.
when I did that, they had a notebook there and they had me sign, did you spend the night? Did you eat? How many meals? I was like, what are they doing? Well, they're trying to figure out other things that adds on to, I'm sure, the sponsorship of that. So when he talks about this army of people coming in, do we tap into that expense report where we can add on to, look, and also this happens for whenever we have that elevator speech, so we need to speak
The
about.
economic
Right.
impact
Exactly.
of that event.
That's a great question, and thank you for that. Yes, I had asked, it's been 3 years now, I guess, when Boeing first came out, I gave them the figures of the hotel rooms and the personnel and the time that they were here. Commerce at the time gave me a figure of north of $500,000 impact to Southwest Oklahoma through the rental of the cars, the hotel rooms, of course, and then meals bought on site, and that was during COVID. So they often didn't go out to places, so now they have the freedom to go out. I talked to some of these groups that certainly they said we could probably go out to your local night establishments and do something there, but some of them joined local gyms and did productive things. So it's a pretty diverse expenditure of their resources, and it was north of $500,000 3 years ago. I'll ask Commerce
So
to
do we
to-
track that?
No, exactly. We'll add that too, and I'll see if I can get a fresh number from Commerce, because that was,
Economic impact study now.
that's that?
We're going through an EIS study now with ODAA.
Okay. Yeah, that's another calculation that other agencies are tracking on our behalf as well. So we're going to be able to have some fresher, newer numbers to be able to show the impact that.
ODAA has contracted with Park Hill to gather a survey on each airport in Oklahoma to put together a big impact, economic impact study. And just recently, we were interviewed, we contacted all of our tenants to ask for information, become part of this, because it's going to show that our airport does contribute quite a bit to the state economy, so.
It's part of a study they did back in 2018. I think they did one that showed that.
Can we take the action to kind of report out the results of that study for?
It's gonna be about a year before it's done, but
Fair enough, but when it comes out, it'd be great to report that out at the board.
I think they put it cumulative, but I'll see if we can't get the specifics to ours, because ours will be a pretty significant part of that. And that's the study that showed, was it 7 years ago, that aerospace had overtaken agriculture to be the #2 industry in the state. And so they're going to do another one, hopefully to be able to show that we're continuing to grow, if not exceed.
Just remember, when the numbers start coming out, it's important because a smaller amount of money makes a bigger impact here
Yeah.
Yeah,
in this part of the state.
absolutely. That's a really good point to make, yeah.
And the reason I wanted this paper that I said, hey, I want to talk about this is because this is important to me, is the education piece, how we're promoting space education across the state. And it was really nice to see this about the University of Oklahoma and how we're not just impacting just Burns Flats out. OSIDA is very important statewide, and we're not just confined to this one location. And I was really excited to see that, so I did want to say thank you to that too.
Thank you for drawing attention to that, and because people at home can't see this, so I appreciate you bringing that up so that Gabe could expound upon that.
And I would just say that is one of the things that we kind of collaborated so Artemis could put this together, because OSIDA staff is pretty stretched thin, and so we don't always do the PR to get the message out about what's happening with the public in general or with legislators. And so something like this will help Craig when he's talking with legislators and, anyone, all of us, when we are just talking about the accomplishments, as you're saying. There's been so much momentum gained and so much that is just really on the cusp of occurring. So this is.
OSIDA is
really
not just an
helpful.
airport.
It is not, it's much more than just an airport, yeah. The spirit of OSIDA.
And the other piece that I think you might be in your folder, this is one that Department of Commerce, again, we work very closely with them. They produced for us, this is brand new, this is what we'll take to a space symposium. And they've updated it each year for us, but this is the latest and greatest information, so I'll see if we can we put that on the website somehow?
And I
We'll
will
put
say,
that
I
on the
was in
website.
DC last week, visiting with legislators about other topics about Oklahoma, but also it was really great to be able to say, did you know that all of this is going on within the space industry in Oklahoma? And so from our legislative representatives in DC, there is a lot of support and a lot of enthusiasm also about what's happening within OSIDA.
One administrative note, did we lose the action items that we've been tracking from the last couple board meetings? I don't recall that they were all closed, were they?
They are still at the end of the last minutes, but they did not make it into the agenda today. I know.
Okay, let's correct that next time if we could, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I knew I had seen them somewhere.
Yeah,
They were in
yeah.
the minutes.
I was looking for them earlier this week.
Well, they were probably meant to be 13.
Yeah, but perhaps.
Guess who told the
Yeah,
14?
right?
There we go.
Okay, moving on, then, if we have no further comments, any new business, which would be something that we could not reasonably have known 24 hours prior to this meeting. Okay, I don't believe there's any new business. The next item, number 15, discussion and possible action to set a special board meeting. So we've discussed some about we've talked about Dawn Aerospace and this potential for us to have actually an aircraft that can fly to suborbital space and the benefits of that for our organization. That is still something that is in process. There was some hope that we could be far enough along to really present all of that to the board this meeting, but there is just still details that need to be ironed out. So it may require a special meeting because we don't want it to linger. When we get all of the pieces laying flat, we'd really like to be able to come together and have a vote on that. So just wanted to give you a heads up that we might try to organize a special meeting, which I know will be a challenge. But yes, Bailey.
If I could make a recommendation, my thought with this agenda item is that since the majority of the board is sitting right here, I'd see if there's a date. that
Find
would
a
happen
date.
Find a
to
date.
work for everybody. Again, that's just a suggestion.
I don't know if we're far enough along to know when we'll be ready to have the meeting.
I would
agreed.
say the earliest end of next week would be the earliest to do the meeting.
No,
No, no.
No, what I'm
We don't
saying
know if
is-
we're far enough along with Don.
No, that's what I'm saying, yeah. The end of, I'm pretty confident the end of next week would be the earliest to have a meeting, because I think we can
She's-
get it worked out with Dawn.
Bailey's been working with us
Okay.
on negotiations.
Are we a member down?
Yes.
They getting filled?
With a nomination's been
vacancy.
made, but probably won't be acted on until probably the last, in May, probably.
Was that was not an emergency appointment, was it? Happened during session?
Doesn't appear to be, since we have enough to make a quorum.
Yep. So, yeah, they can't until they go through Senate confirmation,
Mm-hmm.
which won't happen until
Well, I would
late
have to pull
April
out my
at
calendar.
best.
So I would be looking for 24th.
Yeah, next week will be spring break, so that'll be challenging, I know, for Bailey. But following week, which would be, March 24th.
So, the last week of March or the first week of April?
I will make a
are we-
suggestion.
Yes.
April 2nd is Zero Day in the Capitol, is that correct?
correct.
Why don't we shoot for that date? Gives us a reason to be up here, participate in some of the stuff at the Capitol as well as a special meeting.
Arrow Day will end about 2 o'clock, so we could do.
Is that a Wednesday?
Yes.
It
It's
is.
a-
I love that idea.
And need be, if we want to meet in the Capitol, I bet we can find a room to meet in there if that's acceptable.
We just have to, the only scheduling with the special, you just have to have 48-hour notice, so
Right.
the board can decide now, or
Mhm.
my thought was just a discussion.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
tentatively the 2nd of April.
Tentatively.
I would say tentatively 2nd of April, and we'll just have to find a location, and once we found the location, then we can do the public notice. I'm looking at Bailey to make sure that all fits the legal requirements. Yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
Do y'all have a desire to meet in the Capitol?
Yes.
Okay,
That would make it convenient, if that works.
if it's good with y'all, I'll work on that side of it.
Good.
Maybe in the bathroom, but
Stand
that's how,
up.
that's how they treat me. up
Men's
there.
or
Just gotta
women's?
take a vote,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
Rotunda.
We're not between walls.
Right. Very good. Okay, so we don't need to vote on anything there. That's just really for discussion?
But you don't need to.
Okay, I don't think we need to. Okay. Moving on, then our next meeting, aside from this potential special meeting, is May 14th, and it would be here in the same room where we are right now. And I believe that is all we have. So, if I would entertain a motion to adjourn, if anyone's so inclined.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right. All, JW?
Ms. Gary?
Aye.
Chairman Lyon?
Aye.
Mr. Schultz?
Aye.
Chairwoman Reynolds?
Aye.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
We are adjourned.